anything and everything. It doesn't matter to me.
What was the job, like your dream job, before you found the job you have now?
Dream job is Beyonce's publicist. But that was a question that I never had an answer to, which really drove my parents crazy, because people asked them, well, if you could do anything. And I was like, I knew what I liked and I knew what I didn't like. And for me, that never came together in like a perfect job title. Like I really like to write. I'm very detail oriented. So like the event planning side of things that I'm doing now, I enjoy that type of thing. I knew that I didn't want to do a lot of like media heavy stuff, like video, online, like that's not so much my thing. And so I felt like I had a really clear indication on what my interests were, but maybe not a specific like dream job.
How long would you recommend for people to volunteer? Like 6 months, a year, 3 months?
I would say as long as you can. If it's something, like obviously when you're volunteering, I would encourage it to be something that you're personally interested in. Don't just volunteer for the sake of volunteering, but find a cause that you're passionate about. And then I think that the longer that you stay there, the more connections you're going to make. Nonprofits in our community have incredible board members, and so the more plugged in with those organizations you can become, I think you're just going to continue to meet more people that, it's a benefit to you in the long run. Did you have a question?
Paige, reflecting back on your senior year, is there advice you wish you would have taken more seriously then, based on your experiences now?
Yes, I would say, first of all, to just calm down. Like it's gonna be okay. I was a mess my senior year, like my last semester. I will just be absolutely honest. I was really stressed out the whole time. And so just reminding yourself that it's gonna be okay. And then also start looking earlier than maybe you would think, if you're interested in looking for jobs. And then also making a decision in terms of where you want to be geographically. That was something that was really difficult for me. I was really torn for a while with whether I was going to stay in Springfield or whether I was going to move, and that was kind of making my job search even more stressful because I was like, well, do I apply to jobs here? Do I apply to jobs in this city? And then I would like psych myself out and be like, well, what if I get a job and then I don't have a place to live and that kind of thing. And so maybe making a determination on where you would like to live, start looking a little bit earlier, just allow yourself some extra time to make those decisions. You don't want to feel rushed because you're already going to feel really rushed because it just goes by so quickly.
While you were looking for jobs, what did you do to kind of hone where you wanted to apply to? Because I haven't really gotten a whole lot of advice on how to find jobs other than knowing a specific company that I want to work for. So, obviously I could just Google
Right.
communication jobs. I don't do that. So, do you have any advice on based on what you did?
That's definitely the situation that I was in, prior to meeting the gentleman who worked at the chamber that brought this job to my attention, because the chamber actually, side note, they don't post their jobs publicly, and so if I hadn't met this guy, I never would have known. But I was doing that. I was doing exactly that, looking up companies, emailing people that I knew worked at certain places, asking if you knew of any openings. And it's hard, to take that route. And so I don't know if any of the professors maybe have a better answer to that, because I was doing that same exact thing prior to, being given a direct lead, which is obviously a huge help, but you're kind of taking a gamble on whether or not something like that's going to happen. So do you have Dr. Wall or anyone?
I have a couple, actually.
Okay.
One of our presenters a few days ago was talking about recruiters. There are people that are recruiting for companies, and I'll just use an example. This particular professional works in architecture and construction. And so a lot of communication majors, sometimes they're very narrow, where we have to define what communication studies does, what sort of skills do we have as communication majors, and you have to look into opportunities. So I'll just use another example beyond construction, but some of us might not realize that you can work in healthcare system, we're a healthcare system in training and development, and leadership, and marketing. And so when I like the way you asked the question, it's in terms of saying, Googling a communication job, you have to think about the major beyond communication. You have to think about other key terms such as human relations, community, engagement. One of my close friends from graduate school is actually a director of civic engagement for AT&T in Dallas. And so it's thinking beyond what communication is, and also helping recruiters or people who are on hiring committees, help them understand what your skill sets are. Does that make sense?
And I would say, don't just do one type of job search. Use every bit of your network. You know, talk to your parents, friends, and see if they know. If you don't know what you might want to do, and sometimes it's very scary to ask somebody for a job, so don't do that. Remove that stress. Ask somebody to talk about what they do, and ask them to describe their job, and they may, in the course of conversation with you, say, well, you know, I know so-and-so over here is looking for somebody. This might be something you're interested in. Use everybody in your network. Use the college recruiters. Sign up for job fair stuff. Go on monster.com. Look at the newspaper. Use all of the tools available.
Paige, something else that you touched on that I think it was really important, something that I'm interested in, because we have a whole line in business as well as in communication on work-life balance. And, you know, Dr. Glennis and I have actually smiled about it a few times because, you know, the stress doesn't go away, right?
Yeah.
You know,
I have a feeling it's just going to become more.
It just keeps going, right? And so I'm curious what your strategies are. What do you do to try to relax or to strive for balance?
It's more of like do as I say, not as I do. So I was hoping you were going to ask me about that. But I just think it's important to always have that in the back of your mind. Because like I said, at certain times, you know, with the work really hard thing at the beginning, like I think it's more so an understanding that things aren't always going to be perfectly balanced. Like I'm not always going to be doing, you know, 50% work, 50%, you know, everything else. Like there are going to be times where the scales, you know, tip one way or another because like that's life. You know, maybe it's whatever is most appropriate for the situation and what's going on at the time. And so I think it's just more of that conscious effort for me, at least, understanding that things may not be perfectly balanced all the time, but as long as I'm aware of that and like cognizant of, well, I've been working really, really hard the last 6 weeks. I haven't seen my friends. I need to make an effort to do so, you know, and just kind of, for me, it's just more like internal, as long as I kind of keep myself in check.
What advice do you have for the those of us who are staying in Springfield, like specifically for this area? Because like you said, I know that a lot of companies are looking for young people because most of us leave.
Right.
So what do you have advice-wise for Springfield specifically?
I would say, first of all, you have a great resource here on campus because the campus is so plugged into the community, and we have so many people who are campus leaders in terms of like staff and administration and faculty that are also really well known and really plugged in the community. And so make sure to like work those resources also with the Career Center and the Advising Center. I mean, their most immediate market is right here, and so they should know a pretty fair amount of what's going on around here. If there are like professional organizations that relate to what you're wanting to do, like I know we have PRSSA here for the PR majors. I've gone to a couple like PRSA meetings for the Springfield chapter, which is like the grown-up version of that, obviously, with people who work all over, and kind of like Dr. Wall said, I mean, their job titles range from like things that you wouldn't even think of, and then you realize that they are still doing like similar work and things that are probably really interesting to you. And so if there's like a professional group like that, I would say to reach out to them and ask to go as their guest. That way you can meet even more people, kind of, that, you know, it's industry specific. And it's going to sound like a shameless plug, but I would say join the network. We've got representation from every industry. You know, we've got people from all over, or just the chamber in general, coming to some of their programs. That's just another great group, kind of like the university, that is so plugged in, obviously in the business world, and kind of knows everyone. So.
How do you join the network? Do you have to, can you do it online or?
Yes, you can do it online. Student memberships are $50 for 1 year, and it covers, the way that our memberships work is that you pay the annual rate and then you get to come to everything for the whole year for free. And so like those 3 events a month that I talked about, we typically have food or something like that at them. You don't ever have to pay anything additionally to come to those. And it is online. If you go to the Springfield Chamber's website, which I believe is just springfieldchamber.com, there's, you know, like an About Us tab, and if you click on that, it's in the upper left-hand corner, and then there's a thing that says Join the Network. And so on that website, like I said, it looks kind of rough right now because we're about to get a whole new website, but you can see the calendar for the events. There's a link to where you can see like the membership directory, and it lists the members' names and where they work, and so you can kind of get a sense for the companies that are represented, like, okay, I see, I would really want to talk to this person because they work for so-and-so, things like that. And so you can, and then there's a form that you just fill out also if you want to join.
After gaining a job after like 24 hours following graduation, what have you done to gain credibility in 2 months at your job, literally coming fresh out of college?
Yeah, it is difficult because, I'm absolutely the youngest person in my office, and there are other young people. There are a lot of people who are, like under 35 and under 40, but it's like, I just turned 23, so I'm definitely younger than everyone else. But I think it goes back to that sentiment that I shared, working really hard and just coming in and showing them that you're dedicated. I think there are some people that have really negative perceptions of our generation. There are some people that don't. I don't know that it necessarily matters, like what their feelings are about the general, Gen Y populace. It's more about proving yourself and demonstrating like you're a committed young professional, you're here to work, you're excited about the opportunity, and you want to like demonstrate to them again that they made the right decision in hiring you. So just working hard and not doing anything obviously like ridiculous in the office or anything.